Artero and Tweed became quick friends and spent many an afternoon talking about the war in a small rock niche that Artero found in this mountain, hundreds of feet above the ocean, along a sheer rock wall.
You couldn't have picked a better place. It was on top of a cliff about 300 feet high, overlooking the sea. And it was between two enormous rocks, two big rocks. One rock was about 40 feet high, and the other one about 30 feet high. And there was a crevice that ran along between these two rocks. And the crevice was about 6 feet wide and about 20, 30 feet long. And that was my home for a year and 9 months. I lived in there. Now, there was nothing to keep rain from coming in there because it was all open. As I say, it was just a crevice. It was open at the top. So Antonio brought me a couple of sheets of metal roofing. Oh, that guy would bring me anything that was available, see, that he felt that I needed.
The cave is now more accessible, although you do have to obtain the Navy's permission first to make the short hike up the cliff line. But in 1941, all that existed was a small deer trail that Antonio Artero knew like the back of his hand. He led Tweed through a limestone forest and up over sharp, jagged rocks to a small, level spot where Tweed would live for the remainder of the war. Tweed spent 31 months in all hiding from the Japanese. The last 22 were spent at Artero's. Tweed's cave is bare now. Over the years, scavengers have taken all of Tweed's homemade furnishings. Toward the entrance of the cave, Tweed had constructed a homemade table and chair. That's also where he had his kitchen area and spent a lot of time talking with Antonio Artero. Where I'm standing toward the rear section of the cave is where Tweed slept. Covering him were pieces of corrugated tin like this. This is about all that remains of the original roof. This tin was brought up the sheer face of the cliff by Artero to keep Tweed dry from the rain. The cliff line hiding place was safe, but for how long? Antonio's wife, Josefa, remembers her maid became suspicious when all of a sudden there were more clothes on the line than usual.
One time we have a maid working for us, and we tried to smuggle things to hide away from her because we don't want her to know anything about it. So that's all. Even the children. Or she washes the clothes and says, how come that I have to wash this? This is not to Antonio's. Say, no, that's my brother's pants, and I have only one brother, Pedro. I have that's my brother's pants, and go ahead and wash it because nobody is able to do it for him. So she took it that is my brother's, but really it's Tweed's clothes.
Japanese came to the Artero farm anyway. Josefa was able to gain time, however, with gifts of food.
The Japs became more frantic and more vicious the longer as time went on, see, and they were trying to find me. They knew I was there. They had caught and killed all the other Americans that were in the jungle. They knew I was there. They knew I was the last one, so they were doing everything possible trying to find me. And at first, they announced that as soon as they caught the man who was helping me, they were going to kill him. Well, we expected that, so did Antonio. They got no results on that. So then they announced that as soon as they caught the man who was helping me, they was going to kill him, his wife, and all of his children. Well, there was no doubt but what they would carry out that threat. So Antonio was frightened about it. That really frightened him. So I told him, I said, well, Antonio, I said, you've done more for me than I have any right to expect another human being to do. I said, I don't want to put you in any further jeopardy. So I said, I'll leave here.
But Antonio convinced him to stay. At times, Tweed thought about simply giving himself up, but then reasoned it had been too long and that the Japanese would never let him live. Not all Chamorros, however, agreed with Artero. 31-year-old Adolfo Scambelluri, the son of an American sailor, worked as a double agent. He translated the Chamorro language for the Japanese and secretly helped his fellow Guamanians under investigation for hiding the American. Scambelluri believes Tweed should have surrendered right at the beginning of the war.
Since the governor and his staff have surrendered and the rest of the military here, I see no reason why he should take off and hide in the boondocks, because he has no communication with the outside that we would think that it's something important that he could communicate to the Americans outside of Guam. And when they started looking for him and having people be tortured, that's the time he should have come in before it becomes so serious that finally everybody's a spy, because Tweed is still at large. Every Guamanian that are picked up, investigated for anything whatsoever, whether it's for stealing chicken or pig or cattle or anything like that, Tweed's name is always brought about. Do you know about Tweed? Oh, yes, you do. And they keep beating the guy up until naturally, if he knows a little thing, or even if he doesn't, in order to stop the torture, he will just give out names. Then they go and pick up the other guy, and in some cases, the guy that he suspected or wanted a way to save his punishment knows something about it, and then it spread out again. Then Tweed had to run from one place to another.
But Tweed saw no safety in surrender.
Well, I was just committing suicide if I did, because of the fact that the Japs announced right at the start that they didn't want any more American prisoners, that any Americans left in the jungles would be killed. And then when they caught the group of three, they took those fellows prisoner. They took them into town and tortured the devil out of them for 2 days, then took them out and made them dig their own graves, and they tied their hands behind their backs and chopped their heads off. And then the two fellows, the Japs found out where they were about 6 weeks later, and those fellows heard what had happened to the first three. They didn't like the idea of getting their heads chopped off, so they put up a fight, and the Japs just shot them down where they found them.